April Fools, you thought I would actually make an up to speed on the Deora 2, putting the most iconic Hot Wheels car with the most iconic web series? Hey, get out of here! I'm not even as funny as James is on a bad day, okay? But, wait a minute, I bet you're looking at that time code thinking, wait, but there's still more time. You better believe it! Like, comment, and subscribe because this is everything you need to know to get up to speed on the Deora freaking 2! Lightning, Achoo! This video sponsor is JayCee LegoMan10302.redbubble.com, otherwise known as my Redbubble shop, where it has Acceleracers designs extraordinaire. Yes, is the name long? Indeed. No, I cannot change it, but yes, it still does have fire designs. And if you want more designs, go check out my friends at effectiveclothing.com, link in the description as well. Now, back to the show. Chapter 1, the original. You can't talk about the best sequel without first talking about the original. After all, Terminator 2 may be the best, but without Terminator 1, wouldn't even exist. So in 1964, Harry Bentley Bradley was working at his desk one day when he got an offer from his good friends Mike and Larry Alexander, who wanted to do a new concept vehicle. It was going to be a never-before-seen sleek design truck, and it would have the cab in the front. At this time, the name of the truck was X-Tab, or Dodge X-Tab, and it was the experimental truck by the Alexander brothers, okay? Because everyone knows you can't have experimental without X. To remedy this, Bradley put in the 1965 Car Models magazine a naming contest for the vehicle. A 13-year-old by the name of David Hagedorn sent in a misspelled version of Deora, meaning of gold, in Spanish, that was submitted as Deora, inhabiting the candy gold paint of the truck. The Deora was slated to be built by 1967 and would hopefully be based on the Dodge A100. Harry had said the motor trend of the 3 cab-forward pickups on the market at the time, the Dodge was unquestionably the homeliest. But that means that something like the Ford Econoline would have worked just fine, especially if Chrysler didn't bite on the price of the build. They could simply hand it off to Ford instead. Luckily, Chrysler totally agreed to the idea and lent them the Dodge A100 to be chopped and just messed up, baby, with a transition to a mid-engine setup which would incorporate a slant 6 2.8 liter Mopar. The hatch would be taken down from a 1964 station wagon and was supposed to end up like a European sports car where the whole thing would open up. Unfortunately, the A-pillars at the time were not built for this and just wouldn't work. I wonder what the US Safety Commission would have thought about those A-pillars and crumple zones though at the time. It wouldn't have worked. Don't worry, they were still able to open the glass, but the grille would instead fold in like a door for the passengers to go in. 1967 hit, and it was time to show this baby off to the world at Detroit Autorama. It would go down to win 9 awards, including the much-acclaimed Don Riddler Award. Now, Chrysler, who funded this, was questioning why it had some Ford parts, which Bradley would just state, Mike and Larry's customs were well engineered. The example would be that there are some beautiful hidden taillights that are used by a T-Bird and Mustang parts. Now, I've been talking about this beautiful custom car for a while now, and unfortunately I can't go on about the whole thing, but if you want more, link is in the description. Because now the larger-than-life truck will be translated into microscale. You could say it was the first Hot Wheels Legends Tour winner. And it would go on to win to be part of the Sweet 16, launching one of the greatest toy lines in history.
New Hot Wheels, only from Mattel.
In 1968, when Harry Bentley Bradley left GM to go work at Mattel, he brought over the design to be translated to those oh-so-sweet red lines. And he was given the famous Spectraflame gold paint. And one other interesting feature, mentioned by Elliot Handler, the CEO of Mattel at the time. 2 surfboards on the back. In fact, the surfboards weren't even there in the original design, but would become a staple for its iconic legend in the future. Becoming a staple of the brand, the Deora would be a legend for kids of the time and collectors in the future. It is a hot set of wheels, but the name wouldn't end without coming back once more, even more legendary than before. Chapter 2, The Next Generation. Now, it had been years since the original Deora was cast anymore, although retooled, times had changed. The futuristic look of the 50s was no more and being replaced with the tuner culture of the 90s. And so, Hot Wheels at the time was also in a new transitional period of their brand. Stuff like HotWheels.com and the new internet age were being fully realized with new transmedia entertainment. It was time for this new century, one with more interactivity with kids, video games, and most importantly, new Hot Wheels designs. It all started with an in-house competition and an up-and-coming designer, Nathan Proch. Starting at Hot Wheels in 1998, he had designed 3 models at the time: Express Lane, Toe Jam, and 4-Wheeler. This, though, was his greatest creation, something for everyone, hot rodders, tuners alike. This was going to be a sequel to that Golden Boy Deora from 1968. And just like the first, he would find inspiration from the back of another Ford station wagon, this one being the 1996 Ford Taurus. This time, unlike the previous Deora, the straight lines would be replaced with swooping curves and an oval windshield, making it stand out from its daddy, but having just enough to fit the criteria of Deora. The second most unique feature would be the spoiler. Back then, spoilers were just something to place on a car for the looks, and Proch took that idea and placed the spoiler reverse, going instead towards the front instead of popping out the back. Proch stating, "The wing actually curves forward. I've never seen another car wing that curves forward into the wind. In an era where we have jet planes with forward swept wings, I wondered, why can't we do the same with automotive design?" These bold new ideas and designs would go to win the in-house competition and be slated for the new model's release of 2000. And thus the legend was born, with its run beginning with a befitting second place trophy, silver tone, and the words Deora 2 pasted at the back near the spoiler. And that with the 5 dots. Peace be upon him, the holiest of wheels. What the heck? How'd you even get in here? This is just a parody after all. If you need a religion, come join the Pentaspheres, accepting new members from 10 to 6. Okay, that's weird. Just ran out the door for some reason. Anyway, and with the wheels that it got, we would get the first edition's Deora 2. Now the Deora 2 would go to have several releases that year, and including a Toy Fair premium with gold surfboards, a mainline premium with rubber tires, and a Redline Club exclusive with green Spectraflame paint. But, and this is a huge but, I know we've all been waiting for this, the year of 2003. This would be the 35th anniversary of Hot Wheels, and what many would say isn't an understatement to call the year of the Deora 2. It began with a new line of Hot Wheels cars that would include the fusion graphics and cold mold wheels, something new at the time. This line would be called Highway 35 World Race, where the cars got special packaging with a comic book. These comic books were requested by Mattel to Starlight Runner and would be the underlying factor in producing this new world. Jeff Gomez, the head of Starlight Runner, would be vital in transforming this new transmedia world into a movie with mainframe entertainment, named simply Hot Wheels World Race. This would be where the Deora 2 made its way into the hearts of the next generation. The driver, Burt Wheeler, and the car, Deora 2. This is where the most of that fandom fame comes from. Just as it would be with Dom's Charger or Brian Supra, Burt's Deora 2 would take a life of its own. In fact, I still have this, my childhood drawing of the car. I was 5 years old when I do that. However, this wouldn't be the only thing that the Deora 2 got, but also a time span of 24 weeks where this mini model was going to be life-sized. Unlike most Hot Wheels cars that go from 1 to 1 to 1/64th, this one would go from 1/64th to 1 to 1, and Chip Foose would be heading the project just as he had with the Twin Mill. And Hot Wheels Carson Lev was known stating, when this project came along for the 35th anniversary, it was only natural to go back to Chip. With the help of 5-Axis, the project started early in the year. It was in order to be shown at the Peterson Museum. This extremely short time schedule of 24 weeks would be something that Chip would go on to say and lose sleep over. It's not that the car is important, it's not. What's important are the friendships and my word. If I say I'll get it done, I'll get it done. Dude's freaking hardcore, as we all know. Starting off, they needed a car that would be for the V8 in the back. In this case, a stripped Cadillac DTS. Some criticized that because of the North Star V8 used, but at the time it was high-tech with its multi-cam system and ease of placement, allowing for transverse setup. Basically, in the words of Foose, the DTS was selected because we could take a front-wheel drivetrain and make it into the back. I mean, that's as simple as it gets, right? The next step would be the body itself. This proposed a challenge because the Deora wasn't based on any real car that they could just what you got? Shop up. So instead, the team at 5-Axis would go to make a full fiberglass body kit in CAD software. This combined with a female mold in order to set it upon would be the crux for the design to work. And with everything in place, it was time for the unveiling at the Hot Wheels Hall of Fame at the Peterson Automotive Museum, November 11th, 2003. Jay Leno comes onto the scene, driving the Deora 2 into the event and making every kid jealous as he drove the car into the museum event. This would have the car be placed with the original Deora and the previous Twin Mill Custom, showing off Hot Wheels to the life-size industry. A special note here would be that they also released these 1/64 scale Deora 2s in Ghost Gray, which would be actually what my friend has, double A. The Deora 2 would later get a 100% Hot Wheels release with moving items, and it would go to be placed with the Deora 1, a 2-for-1 collector's special. And it would also get a 1/16 scale replica of the real-life build. Probably my favorite premium Deora 2 would have to be the 10th anniversary special of Nathan Croce, which I made a video on in the iCard. And the most coveted but never before made Teku Deora 2, which only appeared in Hot Wheels Acceleracers Ignition in 2004. While fans were upset at the car getting halved, it also cameoed in an appearance in Hot Wheels Infinite Loop, a mobile game. Also made a video on that. Alas, the great tragedy of the dollar losing value would soon impact this custom ride and cause one of the most tragic things in Hot Wheels history. Chapter 2. The Retool and Sequels. This isn't easy to get through. Hot Wheels at this point weren't in the same innovative state in 2000s, and instead had to get cheaper and cheaper, ultimately causing the more expensive castings such as Deora 2 to be retooled, meaning they had to make it easier for machines to produce instead of people. The first retool came in the form of a cab change and had the windshield tucked into the body instead of leaving it flush. And that same year saw the Color Shifters version, where instead of changing the cab, they changed the surfboards to mold into the body directly. While not seemingly bad, these two casts would have a bad effect on the overall mainline of Deora 2. As the surfboards went away and cost cutting got more extreme, 2017 saw the last year of the surfboards being separate. And in 2021, the post design, as it's known, included the molded surfboards and the folded-in cab. The two rivets rule at Mattel really did a banger on the Deora 2, and in some ways really messed up the design for many. But there is a sliver of hope in 2019. A leak of new models included the name Deora. Maybe it didn't have to end with the Deora 2 after all, and maybe a new casting could bring life back to the name. Enter Mark Jones and his design of the Deora 3. And it's a doozy. To fulfill a new trend, it was done for a new line of electric sequel cars, including Roger Dodger 2.0 and Twin Mill Gen E. However, although Mark Jones did a great design and concept, the cast was not welcomed by open arms at all, basically, by Deora fans. I ran a bunch of polls recently, and you can participate in them next time, using Discord, Twitter, and Reddit, with the result being overwhelmingly negative on whether the Deora 3 deserved its name. This by no means that Mark Jones is a bad designer, he made Pony up, after all. This is simply a rejection of the idea that you can't have the nice cab and the surfboards on the back. And in a way, this left the Deora 3 being labeled the flip-flop. Probably not the beach theme they were going for. Then there was the Dodge Deora 2022, designed by Zenvo Automotive designer and engineer Frederick Steve Christensen, and released as a fully modeled truck in CAD. This would many go to accept as a true Deora 3, and to me, it looks exactly like Mark Jones' design, just with the cab and surfboards. That to me shows two things. Deora needed to have a hatch in the front and boards on the back. Only then could it really live up to any expectation given to the name Deora. Will there be hope one day of the Deora 2 regaining its former glory in a premium cast? I would go to say not likely. Although it's probably the most iconic to the 90s and early 2000s generation of kids, underlying factor, money. And Hot Wheels RLC, the stuff that sells, is the stuff that the 60s and 80s kids were gawking at. And this isn't a bad thing. After all, these guys can afford these premium releases much more than the 20-year-olds at the moment. Maybe in the far future, when this generation grows up, only then can we ever hope of Hot Wheels creating an RLC fantasy model such as Deora 2 and Twin Mill, cars that were turned real through engineering and celebration of car design. And so we pour one out for the beloved Deora 2, gone but never forgotten, having the status of a 21st century icon, giving the driver vert wheeler his wings, and cementing its designer, Nathan Proch, being perhaps the best Hot Wheels designer ever. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's kind of a sour note to end on, but I was hoping I did justice to the most iconic Hot Wheels car to exist in this century. This was not an easy video to make, and I would really hope you give credence to the people that helped make it. Shane Jacob with Effective Clothing Group helped film everything. Valkenvugen with the Deora 2 background effects. Ryan and Amy Curtis with the photo shoot. And a huge thank you to Dodit Media for being the inspiration. I did an April Fool's bumper to bumper as well last year, and I was stoked to see that they actually watched it. So huge shout out to them for being the coolest about the April Fool's thing I do, but not guaranteed to continue. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for more great edited content and turn on that notification bell for all the live streams I do, as they come sporadically, but they're always fun to do, especially when Hot Wheels Unleashed comes out later this year. Join the Discord for all things up to date on my channel, and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit at JCC_2224, and like that Facebook page at JC Squared. All these links and everything will be down in the description below under if you haven't already. Thanks again, y'all. Stay blessed.